When I was a kid, all I wanted was everything I didn't have. There was a large part of me that wished for a different life. When you're a kid, it's out of boredom, so you play pretend. When you're a teen, you daydream, and as an adult, you regret. I by no means had a hard childhood. My parents gave me everything they had, and I had friends in school, but for as long as I can remember, I have not wanted to live the life that I do. Now, hear me out for a second, because that sounded really edgy, but what I'm trying to say is that this has been a recurring thought for me ever since I was younger. It's one of those thoughts that kind of linger around in your head and never really go away. You really don't want to think about them sometimes, but you're forced to. When I was a kid, this was a really big problem for me until I picked up a game called The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. To illustrate more of what I'm talking about, I'm going to return back to my point of wishing for a different life. As a kid, you play pretend, and my personal method of doing so was through video games. I used to be fascinated with MMORPGs, mostly Asian ones, cough cough Maplestory, because it essentially felt as if I was living through these games. I got on every day and saw the same people. Catfished my first girlfriend, though in hindsight I don't know if I was catfishing or if I was being catfished, but I'm just gonna say I was the catfish. Though eventually in my early teens I started to fall out with these kind of games. The friends I played with grew up also, and the worlds in these games started to fall apart for me. That feeling of escapism that I once extracted from them was replaced by a stark sense of loneliness in these huge empty worlds. It was around this time my sister started playing Skyrim, and growing up watching her play different games, this one had a completely different tone to it. I almost immediately wanted to try it for myself. This was the first real RPG that I had played in my life, and I have never had a moment before or since that made me feel so genuinely happy. It was that immensely liberating feeling that lingered around when you rode through the intro carriage in Helgen, which is kinda hilarious because your character is literally in chains. The NPCs talking in the background, how your mind wanders to fill in the backstories of Ralof, Lokir, and Ulfric, that kid whose father is telling him to go back inside. All of these, though such small details, were the spark that lit the flame of the open world to me. I was told in that moment that there are people in this fictional world, and this revelation of my wandering mind was just the beginning of an adventure. As I played the game, my first humble walk through Skyrim, my first dragon encounter, my first crush on Ysolda, these were all experiences that sucked me more and more into this game, that I eventually started calling it home. Watching my weekly MXR video, learning more and more about the lore through Fudge Muppet, and exploring the crevices of the world through Camelworks and the Epic Nate, Skyrim and its community became my form of escapism. I eventually moved on from Skyrim, though I still return once in a while to pickpocket Heimskr and Nazim's clothing as petty revenge. But what Skyrim showed me was how to fill this overwhelmingly large hole in my life that I figured was just part of living. I started playing other RPGs like Divinity 2, Dragon Age, and The Witcher, and through those I found more and more solace. Though 9 years later, Skyrim is kinda clowned on for its multiple re-releases and to some a quite shallow open world. For my first time playing it, it felt like an alignment of the stars. As I get a little older, my will to experience a different life doesn't and probably will never fade, but Skyrim gave me a way to cope with these feelings that I've struggled with for so long. And for that, I just felt like I needed to say thank you to Skyrim and all of its community for giving me endless hours of escapism that I will never nor have the will to escape from. It's currently 3:13 in the morning, and I impulse wrote this in a Google Doc because I couldn't think of anything else besides when The Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, which is taking forever, so I'm kinda sad. This was a really hard but rewarding video to make, to say the least, and I actually kind of enjoyed it, so thank you for watching me talk. I don't know what else to say, so I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna go to sleep. Goodbye.